Welcome into the Big Chief Show. It's your boy Freddie D alongside the one, the only. We haven't had it's been a few months. It's first time in 2024, and of course, look, life happened, car accidents happened. Me and my boy Chris were on. We had some good weeks, and then, like I said, your boy tried to impale himself in Baytown, Texas. Here we are, though, glad to be alive. And listen, folks, wear your seatbelt. That's the moral of the story for that. So, Chris, let's get right down to it, my man. TakingVegas.com. It's been a while. First off, let's get right down to it. 2024. We're 2 weeks into the year. Are you a big resolution guy? I mean, look, you've been doing this for a long time. How does Chris Hodge look at each different year, and what's kind of as you get ready to start each year, how do you look at it?
I mean, really, no resolutions, man.
No resolutions. Just be the same person that you've been, that has worked. Maybe lose a little weight. That's always a good resolution. But that only works for like a few months, and then you're off to that. But no, I've been doing this since 2004. Now there's things, the process that you've gone on the last 20 years that have worked, and there's some processes that haven't worked. So it's like any other business. Whatever doesn't work, cut out. Whatever continues to work, improve. And that's it. I mean, we have a good thing going. Our program works. We don't win every game. I'm always upfront with that. But the way we have the program set up, with the money management, if you lose a game here or there, it doesn't really hurt people. So keep everything the same, status quo. Continue moving forward, continue making money for customers, and everything works out. No, it absolutely does. And look, man, somebody who's been in the sports biz, sports radio side of things for a while, the fact that you've been doing this for 20 years, and year number 20 certainly says a lot about, obviously, your success, your track record, because again, and you know this already, Chris, and this is something that you're dealing with in the wake of, and there was an interesting article in The Athletic today talking about how, with the number of professional athletes, and I'm kind of going off kilter here, but I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. What and again, you've been doing this for a while, so I'm really curious. And this is something that we're going to tease later on the show, but the Athletics talking about it, how hockey players have gotten into trouble. We've got college kids getting into trouble. You had Calvin Ridley who got booted out. The Detroit Lions, Jameson Williams missed 4, 5, 6 games, whatever it was, because these guys all were gambling, not on their teams, but at the facilities and what have you. How surprised are you, Chris? And maybe you're not as surprised, but that we're starting to see players with their phones, with the apps, with a little action on the game. Are you surprised we haven't seen anything bigger yet, or do you think that's coming?
It probably is coming, but I'm not surprised at all. First of all, let's not kid ourselves, right? People were always gambling.
Yeah.
I mean, it's legal now in many of the states, right? But to think, I mean, look, I'll never say anyone's name, but I've had multiple professional athletes as customers. Now, those professional athletes that I had, not one of them ever asked for advice or bet on their sport that they were playing in.
Okay.
But I've had a good number of professional athletes as customers, the nicest guys in the world. They may know their team or their game, but they don't know others, and they rely on some advice in that. But look, people have been gambling forever. I do think with the younger kids, we definitely have to teach them the pitfalls, because there are pitfalls. And when I do the Sports Investors Daily Radio show that I've done since 2006, I always say that, if you guys are out there betting with, no plan, no strategy, if you're risking money that you can't afford to lose, you're going to get chopped up. It's the exact words I say. And it's going to be a bad situation. You're going to hurt your life. You're going to hurt your loved ones, So this is to be done with disposable income. Now, you're talking about millionaires, athletes. If they lose, 50,000, 100,000, yeah, it's not good, but it's not going to hurt them. But if the layperson loses 50 to 100,000, you're talking about a guy ruining his life.
Yeah.
So no one ever wants to see that happen. That's why when people call us, we say, what do you have? What are you willing to invest in this? 10,000. Okay. And we build off the plan of 10,000. But to your point, we definitely need to educate the younger people, the younger generation of the pitfalls. No different than, drinking and driving. No different than doing a couple other stupid things that could be a detriment to your life. We definitely have to educate people on that.
No, we absolutely do. And I mean, hell, my alma mater, we just brought a kid from Iowa State that had to sit out the entire year because he was betting on, FanDuel, DraftKings, and he was an Iowa State kid,
Didn't bet on the football team, but he bet on Iowa State basketball, right? Because, and let's think about it. You got these kids that are, maybe they got some NIL money, maybe they got a little bit of this, maybe whatever. But, if you're boys with other guys on the in the facilities, okay, hey, we're playing KU tonight. We like our chances. Your boy supposed to win stuff in your ear. Hey, so-and-so's not playing. Okay, let me put $20, $30, $50, $100 on it.
Happens.
Yeah. So it's going to be, look, to your point, we know gambling's not going anywhere, but it's one of those deals where, and professional sports, and I think to your point, Chris, we're going to see a lot more of the players' unions get involved, right? Because they're the ones that because they're the ones that should be kind of leading this charge, right? It's like, look, we're not telling you grown men how to spend your money, but at the same time, too, you give a 22, 23-year-old kid millions of dollars, they tend to wild out, especially if they ain't come from that kind of money.
That's another lesson that should be taught, because nowadays, for the first time ever, you're having young athletes in college as millionaires.
Yeah.
Show them how to spend their money, show them how to save their money, show them how to invest their money. I would not recommend those kids are gambling. I wouldn't. And I'm in the gambling industry. I make my money off of it. I'm also 44. I made mistakes. When I was a young kid, I made mistakes. Hell, I lost $50,000 on goddamn Gonzaga missing a free throw against Akron back in 2008, 2009.
Right.
You remember that one,
yeah.
Right? You remember a game like that. But I've also won a lot of money as well. And, I've learned through the years to be more patient, disciplined. And kids at 19, 20 just don't have that in any aspect of life.
Of course, it's funny, though, of all the wins you've had, it's that loss that you
that loss. That was the worst loss ever. That was the worst loss ever. Because they're up 19, laying 13 and a half with like a minute to go. It happens, man. It happens.
I love it. Well, we'll have some more of those stories here very, very soon. Well, let's get into this real quick. Just a quick show for folks. And like I said, you can catch Mr. Chris on the Sports Investors Radio Show. And like I said, go to takingvegas.com, follow him on Instagram, follow him on X, all that good stuff. You will be glad you did. And then, of course, go to their website, takingvegas.com, give them a call, and Chris and one of his guys will get you squared away. So that being said, we're the regular season in the books. Look, for an NFL, for a league that's built on parity, it does feel like there's that group of teams that have been kind of just hovering around the top for the last few years. The Chiefs being one of them, the San Francisco 49ers, that's, Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. Here we are, though, in 2024 playoffs. And yes, it's a lot of the same cast and characters, Chris, but you and I talked about, Detroit and what their chances were at the beginning of the season. And here we are. I don't think anybody in their right mind had the Texans breaking through to the playoffs. And of course, I don't think anybody had in their right mind CJ Stroud being the kind of quarterback that he is. How was the 2023 NFL season for you and your team? And what were the biggest surprises for you this season?
It's an 18-week season, right? So it's no different than anything else. It's going to be, ups, downs. Some pitfalls in there. We got off to a tremendous start.
Mm-hmm.
Hit a little bit of a lull, right around the first couple of weeks of December. But then picked it up again. Out of the 18 weeks, we posted 13 winning weeks, 5 losing weeks.
Okay.
Hit our top game. We hit our top game last week. We were sweating it. We had Buffalo, and Buffalo's supposed to run them out of the building, and then Bass misses which amounts to a layup as a field goal kicker.
Yeah.
From 20 yards away, he doesn't even hit the net. And then
that's no extra point.
You're sweating it back to a cover. But we won the game. Happy to win it. But it was a good season. Like I said, 13 winning weeks, 5 losing weeks. Hit some top plays in there. Ups, downs. But for the customers that came on board, the weekend of September 9th, which was the first weekend of the NFL, we did very well for them. And we look to continue and keep it going here in the playoffs.
What was your biggest surprise from whether it was a player, team? I don't know that the Patriots were that huge of a surprise, just for the simple fact that we knew already going into it, right?
No surprise at all. For the Patriots, no. My biggest surprise, really, from a individual player perspective, is I'm surprised Justin Fields didn't take the next step.
Okay.
I wanted him to take that next step, and now it looks like they're probably going to draft Caleb Williams. I'm not sure he wants to even play there, but I don't know that. But I thought he would take the next step. From a team perspective, it was really no surprise, because anything that could go wrong for this particular team always goes wrong. But the Jets, they had Super Bowl aspirations, and that ended on play 4.
Yeah.
So and that's typical. That's the Jets.
So not really a surprise there. But in terms of a team that didn't take the next step, that had everything fall apart, was the Chargers.
Yeah, once again,
you just thought, they would take that next step. I'm not saying, compete with Kansas City for a divisional title, but be in the playoff hunt and not even close to that.
Chris, I would almost argue, and this is me being an AFC West guy, so I've watched the Chargers my entire life. The Chargers are almost like the West Coast version on a much smaller scale popularity-wise as the Jets.
Yeah,
because let's be real with ourselves. We're going to talk about the Chargers. The Chargers always find a way to lose, right? Always. Think about, what was it, a decade and a half ago when Marty Schottenheimer goes there. They're 14-2. They're kicking ass, taking names. You got LT. You got Phillip Rivers. You got Gates in his prime, and you get beat in the first round, or excuse me, you get beat in the divisional round, right? That's what the Chargers do. Look, and this is why I think maybe, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this as far as what it means for a head coach, and maybe they care, maybe they don't. But you don't even have your own stadium. Okay, you're a stepchild in your own city. Okay, and Chris, I'll take it a step further. I would venture to say that the MLS, Team FC or LAFC or whatever, that's owned by Tony Robbins, I would venture to say that they probably have a better following than the Chargers do. Right?
Well, you know what? Let's be fair about it, right? So when San Francisco goes into SoFi to play the Rams, okay?
Yeah.
That stadium is all San Francisco.
Oh, 100%.
I don't know what goes on in LA. I don't know if it's fair weather. I don't know what it is, right? But here, when the Giants play the Jets, if that's a Giants home game, that's a Giants dominated crowd.
Okay.
If it's a Jets home game, it's a Jets dominated crowd. But when, there was a couple years ago, Pittsburgh went there, or it might have been this year. Pittsburgh went to SoFi. That was a home game for them. If they didn't have to go across the country, that was you heard when they were on defense, that stadium was loud. Yeah. And it's the same thing with Las Vegas. It's like, it's hard because there's so many, transplanted people there or people visiting that go to watch their team play, and you kind of lose home field advantage. But, to your point, the Chargers are definitely a stepchild. They're like the Jets, stepchild for sure, like the Mets, stepchild.
No, they 100% are. I guess my only other, my biggest surprise this year, like I said, the Texans obviously being here in Houston. I guess let me take that a step further. Where are you at on CJ Stroud? Because it seems like we've got kind of a 2-horse race when it comes to the offensive rookie of the year. You got CJ Stroud, even though he did miss those 2 games, but you see what they're doing now. And then you got Puka Nacua. Right, who literally came out of nowhere.
It's CJ Stroud, and Nacua had a great season, right? Take nothing away from the kid. Phenomenal season. He did a great job. But this isn't even close. This is going to be a blowout. He plays the most important position on the field. He took a team that had the number 2 overall pick last year, and they're in the playoffs. And look, I don't think they're going to beat Baltimore. Obviously a 9.5, 10-point underdog, but I think they're going to be in that game.
I do too.
I really do. And in terms of CJ Stroud, I did this on my podcast yesterday. If I'm the guy who owns the Carolina Panthers, I literally fire everyone. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone, get out. Because, one, you made me trade up to number 1. You took the wrong kid. And I'm not saying anything bad about Bryce Young, right? He might very well have a fine NFL career. I hope he does. But he's not as good as CJ Stroud. He's not as big. He's not as strong. He's not as good. Okay, so you miss on that. And on your team last year, you had Baker Mayfield. You got rid of him. And now he's in the final 8. So you could add CJ Stroud. And you had Baker Mayfield. 2 quarterbacks that are in the divisional round right now. You pass on both of those guys. You screw both of that up. You lose a draft pick. And you only won 2 games anyway. So what the hell do you got to lose? I'd fire everyone.
But and you lost your number. And you would have had the number 1 draft pick again this year.
Correct.
Right?
That's how you screw up. That's how you screw up organizations. Just like that.
We'll get to that in a second because I got a couple thoughts on that as well. Defensively, right? You got Will Anderson. I know he's in the mix, but is this Jalen Carter's award to lose as well?
Ooh.
Or is the defensive rookie of the year award a little more neck and neck?
I think that's neck and neck because of the way the Eagles ended the season. I know it's a regular season award, right? I know that, but they were so bad to end the regular season.
Well, the defense was awful.
Terrible. And they were descending while Houston was ascending.
Yes.
I don't know if that sways the voters. I mean, both guys, tremendous seasons. I don't think Houston would be upset if they had Jalen Carter, and I don't think Philadelphia would be upset if they had Will Anderson, right? So they're two tremendous players. I lean towards Will Anderson, though. I think Will Anderson.
I think you're right on that. I mean, he didn't have, look, he didn't have those monsters. I think he broke the rookie record for the Texans with like 7 quarterback sacks this year, which again is not huge.
He had an impact. They stayed away from his side. He had an impact.
But he had an impact. You had him on one side, you had Jonathan Grenard on the other side, so you had a very solid defense. I mean, but at the end of the day, too, though, for what you gave up, right, for what you went to get, and how he turned out. I think he missed a game this year. So, like I said, I think with what and again, Nick Caserio going from a guy who looked like a complete abject failure the first 2 seasons with the Texans, hiring Coley, hiring Lovie Smith. And it's quickly, and it shows, Chris, how quickly the NFL game can change.
Happens
One
fast.
off season, boom, just like that.
Fast.
Just like that. Last thing I'll ask you, obviously, we know Lamar Jackson's probably going to be the MVP, barring any kind of major development there. Coach of the year, though, right? Like, that might be the second most intense race just because you got DeMeco Ryans in the mix. You got Kevin Stefanski, who took 4 different quarterbacks. Who's the other guy I was thinking of, dadgummit, off the top of my head? I mean, whether it's LaFleur, who took that team from, looked like he was going to get fired at the beginning of the season to suddenly, now all of a sudden, he's in the playoffs. Is it as cut and dry that it's Stefanski, or does DeMeco Ryans, given where he's been and what he's done with that team, is this going to come down to the end?
So I always hate those questions. I'll tell you why, because I feel like when you answer them, you're insulting one guy, right?
Fair.
Like, so DeMeco Ryans, let's start with him. I mean, there's nothing I can say, right? That's a tremendous job. Right?
Yeah.
But I lean towards Stefanski just because, as you just alluded to, I mean, 4 damn quarterbacks. Think about this, right? The Jets lost a quarterback and could do nothing right? The Vikings lost 4 quarterbacks, or however many, and was still in the hunt right down to the last week of the regular season.
I was going to say, I mean, hell, we're leaving Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah. I mean, so when you lose quarterbacks and you have injuries like that, and you got to basically take a guy that was sitting on a bus stop, right? Yeah. And he's a great player. He's won a lot of big games in the NFL, Joe Flacco. But, I mean, that's who they went and got. And you still win. And I know it ends last week because you guys kicked the hell out of them. But, I mean, when you do what they do in by the way, the toughest division of football. It's the only division in like forever where every team was over 500. Yeah. So they did that in the toughest division in football. Tremendous job by them, and I would lean towards him.
Okay, Kevin Stefanski. I mean, look, and which to a lot of folks surprised. I mean, I forgot about this, but didn't realize it again. He's already won a Coach of the Year award, so this would be number 2.
Coach. Definitely a good coach
for Kevin Stefanski. And then here's the bizarre part. Then he went out and fired almost his entire offensive staff just a couple of days ago. So who knows what's going on in Cleveland? Yep. They're the ones stuck with Deshaun Watson. Good luck with all of that. Quick look at the playoffs. Let's take a quick look. You mentioned already you got the Texans and Baltimore on Saturday. That's going to kick things off. You got San Francisco and Green Bay, and I think all 3 of these games. Well, those games are both in that 9-10 range. On Sunday, you've got Tampa Bay and Detroit. Yep. Those are what? That's a 6.5.
That's the early game. Yeah, that's the early game.
And then you got the Chiefs. Buffalo, which is what, a 2.5, 3.5. I think it started out at 4 and then it's gotten down to 3.
Yeah, right around 3, 2.5. And I didn't know where you're going with. I thought you were going with the time of the game. Yeah, Detroit's minus 6.5 in that game against Tampa Bay. And Baltimore right around 9.5, 10. San Francisco right around 9.5, 10.
How much harder is it to handicap playoff games versus regular season?
It's not. I think it's easier.
Really? I mean, because you know what you're dealing with, right?
Well, first of all, the easiest part of it is all the BS stops. And what I mean by that is all this analytical nonsense where coaches go for it 4th and 1 at their own 32. Yeah. That no longer exists in the playoffs, right? Unless you're down late in the 4th quarter or even later in the game, and you have to keep a drive alive. But the analytics turns into back to normal football, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, man, you've watched these teams all year long. You're getting you're not getting a situation where a team doesn't show up.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I know Dallas got run out of the building last week.
I was going to say,
a lot of people they didn't show up, okay? But they just got beat. You don't have a team that isn't taking it seriously like, oh, man, this is our second or third straight road game, or we got a short week next week, or you don't get that. You get everyone's best effort. And that to me is a lot easier to pick. And also I think for a game this week, I think Green Bay is in a really, really tough spot because they played the game on Sunday at Dallas.
Yeah.
Right. Now they get a short week. So down to Dallas, back up to Green Bay, over to San Francisco for a short week. They played on Sunday, now playing on Saturday.
Yeah.
Against a team that has really had 2.5 weeks off because they didn't play anyone in that last game. So that team's a healthy team right now. They're an experienced team. They got playmakers all over the field, and you got a team that, is asked to play 2 games in 6 days with travel all over the place. I think that's a tough spot. And everyone watched Green Bay kick the hell out of Dallas, and usually when that happens, they load up on that team the next week. And I think San Francisco is going to beat them up pretty bad.
No, and look, I didn't realize there was such bad blood between Mike LaFleur and Matt LaFleur and Shanahan.
Yeah.
Look, San Francisco, and I've watched them enough this year. I mean, look, San Francisco, it comes down to one or two things to me. Is obviously, like you said, having all those playmakers around, having everybody healthy, especially having almost 2.5, almost 3 weeks off. If Green Bay is going to have a snowball's chance of winning this game or keeping it close, you got to get after Purdy. Like you got to move Purdy off a spot because I'm not part of the let's bash Purdy deal. But the one thing you can say about him is every quarterback's susceptible to when you knock them off their spot, when you put pressure on them, they're going to be in trouble. We've seen it with 15, we've seen it with 12. Nobody's immune to it. But it's not like Purdy's some freakish athlete, right? So the one thing, and what you saw against Baltimore, and you saw during that 3-game losing streak, is I'm not saying he's easily rattled, but you can get to him. I don't think Green Bay is going to, but if they want to have a shot at least making it close, because I'm with you, I think San Francisco wins this game going away, but it is the playoffs. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, well, listen, the beautiful part about that is, last week, Dak Prescott had to make reads in the pocket, downfield, and you saw how bad that went, especially on the pick 6. Purdy don't have to do that. Purdy can just dump the ball off to Debo. He can just dump the ball off. They can just throw a quick screen out there to Debo, and it turns into a 50-yard touchdown. Same thing with McCaffrey.
Kittle. Or McCaffrey. Or Ayuk.
Yeah, they have so many weapons.
I mean, dude, that's a thing, man. They're loaded over there in San Francisco.
They have so many weapons. I don't think anyone could beat them in the NFC. I think the only team that could beat them, really legitimately, you're not going to like this either. I think the only team that could beat them already beat them, and that's Baltimore. I think that's the only team left that I don't think Kansas City could beat them because I don't think Kansas City can score enough with them. I don't think Buffalo can beat them because I don't think Buffalo can stop them. I think the only team that can beat them is Baltimore.
I do think the one thing I'll say is this, though. I do think, and I'm going to go back to what you said at the top of the show, I think people are sleeping on the Chiefs' defense.
I do too.
I think the Chiefs. I think and look, let me, and again, I'm wearing a fucking Chiefs hat, so what do you expect? Look, I'm in that phase, and Chris, you can appreciate this. I mean, I'm in a phase of life right now where I have a franchise quarterback, right? Like in fanhood, especially when you're a football fan, that's all you want. You just want your team to get a star quarterback, and then you pray for the best. And you hope that your team puts people around them. And that's kind of where we're at right now as Chiefs fans. Look, on the surface, the Chiefs will be – they're going to be underdogs from here on out, right? Which is kind of crazy to think, but I get it. I look at the season. I'm not naive. I get it. I just think it's an interesting position because, as I said last night, and you know this, teams are always, especially good teams, are always looking for an edge. They're always looking for that, they counted us out. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, like, dude, you've been number 1 all year. Like, nobody's counted you out.
Right.
But the Chiefs they finally have that little bulletin board material where they can actually say, we are underdogs. Nobody, if they win on Sunday, we can actually be okay with them saying, nobody expected us to do this.
But they're still the Chiefs.
They're still the Chiefs.
You and I were talking, they have the best quarterback left.
Yes.
Probably have the best head coach left. They probably have the best defensive coordinator left. Whenever you have those 3 things, you're going to have a shot. Look, like talking off the air, why would Kansas City get blown out in Buffalo? Why? First of all, Buffalo hasn't blown anyone out, right? Yeah. Like they really, besides the Dallas game, which got away from Dallas, besides that, I mean, Buffalo's been in fights all year long, save for the first game against Miami. And like I said, the Dallas game, they've been in fights all year long.
Well, not to mention, too, your boy Josh Allen has thrown a pick in almost every single game this season.
But you know what's great about this though right now? This is really for football fans. Let's take the gambling out of it. This really for football fans. Let's take the gambling out of it because we're all football fans. These two guys, Mahomes and Allen, and these two teams, the Chiefs and the Bills, took the mantle from the Colts, Manning, and the Patriots, Brady. And even when Manning went to Denver, like these two guys right now are Manning Brady. That's the rivalry right now, and it's a lot of fun.
I'll do you one better. I'll even take you one better, Chris. Would dare you say is it a 3-team race when you consider that the last 2 seasons you've had Cincinnati,
sure,
that has played kind of that role as well. Of course, your boy Burrow gets hurt, and as we saw, the rest of the rest is history. But
and you also got Lamar Jackson, who's going to win an MVP this year for the second time. I mean, you got Herbert that you think is going to take the next step. Now you got C.J. Stroud. I mean, the AFC is loaded with quarterbacks.
I would argue right now, I would take, and again, I'm being a little biased here because obviously I'm in Houston, but I've watched a lot of his games. I don't know. The only quarterback right now I would take over C.J. Stroud is Pat Mahomes. And again, that's me watching the Texans on a weekly basis, but I'm telling you right now, man, the effortless nature in which he throws the football and his awareness in the pocket for being only a rookie. I mean, bro, this dude's look, I'm legit scared of the Texans in the next half decade.
Good quarterback. Let's take injuries out of the equation because I still think it's in this order. In this order.
Sure.
I think it's Mahomes. I think it's Burrow.
Yeah.
I think it's Josh Allen.
Yeah.
I think it's Lamar Jackson. In that order. That's the order I'm at. And then we can have the argument down the road. And if you want to say he's 5, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, Lamar Jackson. Let's say Stroud beats him this week. Let's say that happens, right?
The world would melt down if that happens.
Well, if Lamar Jackson loses this game, I mean, now you have questions, unfortunately, and it's so hard and it's so unfair because he's going to win the MVP for the second time. Right, but if you can't win in the playoffs, then what difference does it make?
Bro, you already know that. I mean, look, that's. I mean, why are we so up in arms about Dallas, considering the fact that this team's been 12-5 for 3 straight seasons, but they can't win in the playoffs?
They never win. Dak Prescott never wins. And by the way, that pick 6 he throws last week is one of the worst. All they did was drop a robber down into the slant, and he never saw him, and he threw it right to the guy. I mean, to me, regular season numbers are regular season numbers. It's the James Harden effect. It really is. And
great regular season, what though?
They make a shot in the playoffs.
Chris, I would argue though, man, and you and I are the same age, where that's where sports is though.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where sports has kind of morphed into, where unless you're a team that nobody expected shit from, then yes, we're excited about your regular season. But when you have continuously played well in the regular season, and you're a superstar, because look, we expect our superstars to do well in the regular season, right? Like that's part of the deal. But if you can't win a title, if you can't take games over, then like you said, okay, great, you're good at being fucking 11-6.
Listen, that's why the guy behind me, that picture you see, that's why he's the greatest of all time. He wants to know in the finals. If LeBron, who is a great basketball player, no one's saying, but if LeBron was 8-2 in the finals, you have no argument. The argument's over, right? If he goes 8-2 in the finals, 4-6 in the finals, there's your argument.
Dude, you're right. Because I mean, look, I'm a Jordan guy to the end. Okay, like I said, you and I are both the same age, so I'm a Jordan guy through and through. My son's middle name is Michael. I would have, it'd be hard to concede Jordan not being the GOAT if your boy LeBron had more titles, but he doesn't. And guess what? Michael still
doesn't. And he didn't win in the finals. Everyone, he went to the playoffs and the finals 100 straight times. Great job. But at the end of the day, you got to win.
We want titles. All right, real quick here, getting down to it. Real quick, last thing. If you could only watch one game this weekend, what would it be?
Oh, Kansas City, Buffalo.
Kansas City, Buffalo. Enough said.
Not even a choice. Kansas City, Buffalo.
All right, real quick. All right, so the NFL season, we're down to the last couple of weeks. Obviously, divisional round, then we'll have the championship round next week, and then of course Super Bowl after that. Look, we're at the midway point of the NBA season. You had the in-season tournament, whatever. That's another story we can talk about another time. College basketball is finally starting to rear things back up. Obviously, we're months away from baseball. The UFL is going to be kicking off here in just a little bit, but I want to know, what is the Taking Vegas team got its sights set on now that we're just a few weeks away from everybody's favorite season being over?
College basketball and the NBA right now.
Okay.
We really start that in December when college football starts to wind down. Yeah, you have the bowls, but the bowls have become crazy to handicap because of all the opt-outs and
I was going to say the transfer portal's probably ruined that.
Yeah, that's been difficult for sure. And when it's difficult, I'll admit to it. And when I think it's simple, I'll tell you. But college basketball right now, a lot of our customers have an ego when it comes to football because they think they know a particular team or a particular conference or whatever. And they realize in college basketball, they don't know anything. So it's a lot easier to make them understand, hey, do it this way. And, with so many games on the board each and every day, I mean, you can definitely find advantages in the line. Like last night, one of the games we used was Florida State. It was +7 against Miami. That's a stupid line. They were never not going to win that game. And you also had LSU last night as well over Ole Miss. And, tonight we're looking at the Illinois-Michigan game. We've had some success on Saturdays. So college basketball right now for the next, 2.5 months, really front and center. And then obviously the NBA as well. The NBA did a nice job this year, at least a better job of making sure guys are playing, because that was a nightmare last year.
Oh, I was going to say, well, they had to, right? They implemented that 65-game rule, whatever it was.
Right. But guys last year were not playing at 6:30 at night. So you had already used the game at 3, and now your best player is not playing 3 hours later, and now so you had to wait. So they kind of fine-tuned that a little, so that's been a little easier. But definitely college hoops right now. There's only 7 football games left, 7 NFL games left for this week, 2 next week in the Super Bowl. So some chances to make money there, but the moneymaker right now is college basketball.
And then last thing, real quick, before we wrap this thing up, we talked about it already, or you and I did off the air. XFL, USFL merges. Now you've got the UFL. That's kicking off in March. You got 8 teams. One of the teams is here in Houston, of course, and I think that's the right. I think I like the way they're going about it. At some point they're going to have to latch on to the NFL, right, and just be that feeder program. But from a gambling perspective, from a handicapping perspective, how difficult is it, basically, trying to gamble and handicap guys that have, either were second or third string guys in college, and they're trying to make their way to the NFL, and they're just that level below practice squad?
What did Johnny Manziel do when they asked him about film? Yeah. I will give out 0 UFL games. I hope all the players perform well, and I hope they live their dream and have the opportunity to make it to the highest level. In terms of handicapping, no, I'm not having one of my customers risk anything significant on one of those games. Too hard to win. Our job is to make sure we give our guys an advantage. I say this all the time. It's like studying for a test. You study for the test, you break down the games. If you study, there's a good fair chance you're going to pass the exam. I can't tell you if I'm going to pass it with an 80 or 90 or 100, but if I study, I'm going to pass it. Yeah. If I don't study, I'm going to fail it, right? So same thing with sports. We make sure we study, but we also have to have like an idea of, what these teams are running in terms of systems, the players, how they perform in those systems. And, I wish the UFL luck, but from a gambling standpoint, I will not give out one game to one client.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate for you. If I think it's a 8 or 10 game season, if you start to see, because look, whether we like to admit it or not, there's a chance that, we're going to watch some UFL this year, right? It may be a Saturday afternoon where, St. John's and UConn is slow and KU and Mizzou's not on. So we're just kind of flipping the dial and we see, Houston versus Arlington or whoever the hell it is. If you see after 4 or 5 weeks, okay, maybe there's some clear delineation between teams. Would you take a flyer then?
It's going to be adjusted in the line. So if a team is so much better than another team they're playing, I mean, it's going to be, they won't be -3 anymore. They'll be -10. And now you have to deal with that. And look, I think one of the easiest times to make money in sports gambling, a lot of people will disagree with this, but one of the easiest times to make money in sports wagering is the first month of baseball. It is proven. It is one of the easiest times to make money. You could argue it, right? I have the proof behind me to back it up. It is one of the easiest times to make money because the pitching matchups, and I'm not talking about your superstar pitches that are minus 300. You don't need me for that. But, you'll find value in pitching matchups where the line should be much higher than it will be. Like the line in April might be minus 120. Well, that same pitching matchup, that same team matchup in June now might be 280. So you find, advantages early in the baseball season. So, we stick to what we know and what we've had success with. So the first month of baseball, for April, it's going to be baseball.
Okay, so really then, I mean, let's call it what it is. NFL aside, like you said, you only got 7 games left, so it's not like anybody. I mean, unless somebody wants to go insane, you're not going to be, no one's getting rich over the next 7 weeks, or is going to whatever. But between college ball, NBA, and then baseball in April, is there anything else over the next? And you and I are going to talk throughout the course of the next few months anyway. But is there anything else that is got get your? I mean, obviously you got the Kentucky Derby, but anything else that you got your eye on, or are those the 3 for the next 3 to 4 months?
I mean, I have 15 guys here that break down games each and every day, which is funny to listen to at certain times. The disagreements are hilarious.
Yeah.
But a lot of guys here like the NHL. I personally don't. I don't like to bet on the NHL. But a lot of guys here will say otherwise. And some of my guys that have got guys on NHL games, they've had success. Like I have a guy that I say this all the time. He is the best I think I've ever seen with the English Premier League. But soccer is not a particularly bet on sport in this country. But
is that changing?
With the way this guy that I have in my office wins in the English Premier League, because none of us can believe it. None of us can. This guy wins every week. It's like something I've never seen before. You could tell what we do in football and college basketball. We have a good product, and this guy in English Premier blows us away. It's just unbelievable, and he's getting great value with games because of the 3-way. So you'll get Arsenal plus 150, and this guy I think he's lost maybe 4 or 5 games this entire year. It's been this entire season. Then you get into the Champions League and that type of stuff. So, but I talk to customers. And I say, hey, if I talk every 10 customers I talk to, say, I got someone for you in English Premier. Nah, Chris, I'm not interested. 9 will say that. 1 guy will take advantage of it.
Interesting. Look, it's I get it. I mean, look, they're doing everything they can to make soccer, famous or popular over here. So ain't no telling. All right. Last but certainly not least, Chris. Like I said, it was too long in between breaks for you and I to reconvene. But hey, better late than never. And I'm glad we did. We've got some things on tap in 2024. Obviously, look, I'm doing 3 shows in 2 days, and then of course, having you on, my boy Henry Thomas on later tonight. But tell the folks at home a little bit about, because you talked about doing some podcasts. They know you from the your sports show. What are some things that you're looking to do, and where they might see a little more Fred and Chris working together?
Obviously, I'm always as transparent as possible. I reached out to you last week. I was thinking about you. And, I do so many radio shows throughout the country, and most of the radio shows I do, I'm on with really good hosts, right? Mm-hmm. They're really good guys. I enjoy the conversation. I enjoy the banter. Unfortunately, those guys have had contracts with either iHeart or Cumulus or, Odyssey, whatever the case may be. So we've had things in the work with numerous hosts to do podcasts. But as soon as that gambling word gets mentioned, mm-hmm. Their contracts and, their guys that are running this, they don't like that, which is fine, So, the chemistry that you and I have always had, that when we're working together, I thought it'd be great. I have a really great idea for a podcast in terms of sports gambling, but sports in general, what's going on in the sporting world, mm-hmm. Speak about it, a daily perspective and make it interesting and then bring sports wagering into it,
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that you and I will excel at. I'm excited about it. We'll put the podcast together. We'll announce it here, I guess, sometime shortly. And then, I'll put it out to all of my customers and my database. I know you'll do the same. And I think within the time, and look, everyone is trying to, ascend mm-hmm. what the Kelsey brothers have done, and they've used their NFL platform, but they do a tremendous job.
Well, they're good at what they do. Absolutely.
They do a tremendous job. They're interesting. but I have the same vision. Now, again, I'm not an NFL player, and I'm not banging Taylor Swift. So that works against me.
Makes two of us right there. Makes two of us. Don't worry about it. Don't feel bad.
But besides that, I think we could do some really interesting stuff, really personable stuff, and I'm excited to get to work with you. I think it's going to be phenomenal as we go.
Well, and truth be told, Chris, I don't think Mrs. Hodge would appreciate it if you were banging Taylor Swift.
She might give me that one. When you're married, you got those three. Yeah. Like if I met this person, that person, give me this. She might.
Okay. Give me that one. Okay. Well, you know what? And we may have to do a segment about that because I'm gonna tell you right now. Look, I mean, again, you and I are the same age, but we both have kids. But now, how long have you been married?
I've been with my wife for 25 years. I've been married for 21.
So yes, y'all been together for a minute. So yeah, and on the flip side of that, I've never been married, and I've got 2 kids by 2 women. So go, take that. Do
that's got its own issues. That's the law.
Now that being said, once your kids get a little bit older, that that kind of calms down a little bit. I got a daughter who'll be 21 next Wednesday. My son just turned 16. I think you've got sons that are in that same age group, if I'm not mistaken, late teens, early 20s.
Yeah, I got 20, 24, 19, and 17.
Okay, yeah. So you're so you know all the you know how this whole thing works. So, but no, I'm looking forward to it, Chris. And like I said, I'm we've had some fun with the Big Chief Show, and we'll continue doing that. But like I said, for what we're gonna do, and folks, stay tuned. And like I said, you'll see, we'll be putting stuff out about that. But guests, Chris. Sports and look, everybody's doing it, but at the same time too, look, there's something to be said for brevity. There's something to be said for interaction, community, and what have you. And I think from a handicapping standpoint, that group gets kind of put into a box. And after working with you and seeing kind of your approach, how you go about it, and you're much more than just a handicapping guy. And there's something to be said for that. So I'm looking forward to it. And I know a lot of people will too. So anywho. TakingVegas.com. I'll let you take the folks out. For anybody that's on the fence about games this weekend, how do they get in touch with you and how do they get set up?
I mean, they could go to TakingVegas.com. There's 6 great handicappers on there. I know they took a couple of days off this week because everyone needs a couple of days off, but sure. I think they're back full time today. Also, we have a text line we've made this as simple gets. You could just text the word win to the number 545454. Now, we don't have free plays available for that every single day, but we will have free plays available for the weekend once Saturday and Sunday get here. I think even tomorrow for Friday night, some NBA action. So if they text the word win to the number 545454, get free information as well. And then the one thing I always want to say is, I never consider myself to be a gambler. I know people think that's weird. I don't gamble every night, man. I don't gamble on 3 or 4 games a day. I don't. And if anyone does that, you're not going to win. And anyone says they do win, they're lying. You have to be select, patient, disciplined, have a good money management system, no emotion. You lose a tough game. It is what it is. You win a great game. It is what it is. You move on to the next. And I think we've been really good at that, really good at maintaining the emotion. And I think we're great financial advisors. I think we manage people's accounts, what they tell us they have and what they're willing to bet. We do a great job with that. And, listen, proof is in the pudding. Been doing it since 2004. I've been doing Sports Investors Daily since 2006. I'm dealing with FM AM radio. You know what that's like. If I say one stupid thing, they throw me the hell off.
They're booting you out faster than somebody being unruly at a Taylor Swift concert. There's no question about that. Okay, we'll go to Taking Vegas and be sure to text WIN, the word WIN, to 545454. I'll be sure to tweet that out over the next few days. And like I said, it's going to be a busy weekend. So everybody be sure to check out that. Chris, great stuff from you as always. Everybody stay tuned. Like I said, go to takingvegas.com. And then, of course, I'll be on with my boy Henry Thomas, Hall of Fame nominee. Henry Thomas, we're going to be doing a show tonight and look at the games this weekend as well. So for the one, the only Chris Hodge from Taking Vegas, I'm still that dude, Freddie D. Everybody have a wonderful rest of your afternoon, rest of your day. Enjoy the games this weekend, and we'll see you on the other side. Boom.